Okay, so I'm going to mix up just some very basic flesh hues for our pochade. So grab some medium here. It's still the same, half and half stand oil and turp. Just a little touch of Venetian turp, because it's already there. Going to begin with vine black, a touch of raw umber, and I'm going to warm this up with a little bit of Venetian red. Not much, just a speck. It's a very powerful color. And just like cookie dough, get that nice cohesive mix. Always best to use your knife. Saves your brushes and you get better mixes. Now, using a dirty knife, I'm not going to go into my dark light. So I'm going to grab some yellow ochre, just a little bit of nickel yellow, and because most of our warms are in the dark light, I'm going to grab some burnt sienna and a little touch of vermilion, which I much prefer over cadmium. Cadmiums are they're just too harsh, whereas vermilion is much softer. Okay, there's my dark light. Get reasonably close. For here, we don't have to be absolutely dead on. Now, again with a dirty brush, and keeping my colors, my flesh hues, in a sequence, because the logic here becomes the logic on the painting. Just a little bit of yellow ochre, less than what I used here. More nickel yellow, more than what I used here. And I want to create a distinct value step. Go. Throw a little bit of vermilion in there. Okay, don't make your values too close. You can mix and transition them closer later. Okay, there's my middle light. Again, with my dirty brush, again, and again with my dirty knife, just a little bit of yellow ochre, grab a healthy mix of nickel yellow, a little bit of white. Okay, remember, white is not our friend, but sometimes we need him. And then just a little touch of vine black. Not much. All I want to do is cut the intensity of the yellow. Yellow and black are primary compound complements. And when you add a complement to a tone, and when you add a complement to a color, it tones it down. But because it's black, we're actually both toning and shading. Now I'm just going to take a little bit of this, and here, more nickel yellow, a little bit of black. I'm going to mix a transition gray. Now grab some soup, gravy, whatever you want to call it, a little touch of Venetian red, a touch of vermilion. Kind of blew that out. Knock it down. There we go. So this gives us that nice transition gray that basically we find mostly in the upper anterior side of the eye sockets, the oculaires. Okay, now we're ready for the pochade. In this 30-minute video, I'm going to go over the entire process of painting Rembrandt laughing alla prima. Now, the first thing I do with my dark hue, that's the black and the raw umber, is I indicate the top of the head, the base of the chin at the mentalis, and the facial angle. The most important thing in painting portraits is striking the overall shape of the head. And I do this with a brush with straight architectonic lines. You always want to break things down into straight lines. Be sure to hold your brush at the end of the handle. That's how brushes are designed. Doing so, you'll actually get a more accurate and more fluid line. And just making very quick decisions here. Now, there's no details in the pochade. Mostly what I'm looking for at this stage is the shape, and when I proceed to blocking in, my main concern are the planar structures of the head. Now I'm just going to quickly strike the brow line, the base of the nose. I'm just taking my best guess here. I'm not doing any measuring. And also the interstice of the mouth. Now I'm going to load up my brush and I'm going to start blocking in. And with blocking in, I'm establishing the overall light-dark pattern of the painting. Now, as I mentioned previously, as I go into the eye sockets, I am not interested in the eyes. Now, I'm just interested in distilling the head down to its essential components. So it's blocked in quite loosely, but still maintaining a modicum of accuracy. And a little drawing correction here at the brow line. I just use my brush handle to scrape it out. Brush handles come in quite handy, as you will see in the workshop. And as I block in, I'm also cross-hatching. That is, you go one direction and then you overlap again at another direction. It's in the pochade that we establish both our composition, our color, the planar structures of the head. Think of it as a rehearsal. Now adding just a little bit of black to my gravy or my soup, that's the black and vine umber mix. I'm going to start now further articulating the shape of the hair, and also the overall outside shape of the head. Always working from general to specific. But with the pochade, we're going to keep things quite general. Now this tape has not been sped up or slowed down. This is actually my painting pace. Just making very fast decisions here. Just want to get the overall general structure. And of course, always bear in mind that 90% of painting problems are drawing problems. And so now I'm just and now I'm just further refining the darks here, but without going into any detail. Now it's time to start spotting in my flesh values. And I'm going to begin with my dark flesh hue, and I'm going to window shade. That is, I'm going to start at the hairline and work my way downwards. It's just like pulling close a window shade, working top down. You get a more unified surface doing it this way. And here I'm just going to use the 3 flesh values: my dark hue, middle, and light. And the main focus is on the planes of the head. That's where you get the 3-dimensional form, developing these planar structures. Now, in the workshop, in the anatomy section, there is a section on the planes of the head. And here I break the head down in both the frontal pose and the 7/8 profile view. And this gives you a full understanding of how the head is broken down into simple planes. Now, spotting color is laying small values next to another, and this turns the form. Doing so too, there will be no need for blending. Now, in my estimate, blending is a bad term. Think of it. Blending is destructive of form. I prefer knitting. Knitting is constructive. You are joining the edges of your elements. Soft edges, hard edges, which are those of cast shadows, and intermediate edges. Those are the tricky ones, because there you have to deal with knitting a terminator line. And I just added a little bit of vermilion just to warm up the cheeks, because there's blood flowing through flesh. And you will find, as I mentioned earlier in the palette section, it's in the middle and darker values that will go warmer. As we go lighter, we go cooler. Now, the Pochade is an excellent vehicle for developing your brushwork. You get much more mileage by following the forms of the face with your brush. Think of it as modeling in clay. You know, you grab a handful of clay, you slap it on, and you're using your thumbs and your fingers to actually develop the form, especially that of a cheek or the nose. Just follow it. And this is called painting with a sculptural sensibility. Now also, as we window shade, with the light coming from the upper left-hand side of the picture, the intensity of the light will diminish radically as we head towards the chin. Thus, the highlight of the chin is significantly darker than that on the forehead. Let's not have any chins twinkling in the twilight. And with your Pochade, be bold with your brush strokes. First assess, then strike, and leave it alone. Try not to pick at it, other than knitting the form. This is also called an economy of means. And that is painting at its highest level. Saying something, articulating something, with the least brushstrokes possible. That's painting. going to take another pass through here, mostly to get that light plane on the side of the nose, this rhinolaterales. Oh, it is so important to know your anatomy. Rembrandt, Hals, Rubens, Degas, Sargent, they all had their anatomy down pat. Sure, you can say, well, I'll just eyeball a form. I can get it that way. No, you can't. No one could. Once you have an understanding of what you're looking at, you can articulate it. You can develop it much more succinctly, thus achieving this economy of means. And this is why I have added the anatomy to the workshop. And how do you study anatomy? Well, okay, it's not an edge-of-your-seat thriller. You draw it. You go page by page, skeletal structure by skeletal structure, drawing it. And just like learning a new language, learn the terminology. It's not that difficult. And with a terminology, and when you run into trouble, you can talk your way through a drawing problem. And just a little bit of vermilion to strike the earlobe. Again, no details. And I'm just pulling out the forms three-dimensionally. And my intent with the brushwork is to be both deliberate and strong. Remember, it's just a pochade, and the pochade is such an excellent, excellent training ground. You have nothing to lose. It's a small canvas. But the lessons to be learned here are many. And just a few final touches of light here and there. Now with my transition gray that I had mixed up, I'm just going to quickly strike in that reflected light. Reflected light gives you much more mileage in achieving three-dimensional form. But beware, if the reflected light is too light, it's going to pop out. Thus you'll have a popper. You don't want that. Better that the reflected light be too subtle than popping out. Now I'm going to use a little bit of flesh color, my middle tone, just into the hair. Now when you're doing hair, go into hairdresser mode. You want to follow the locks of the hair. Follow the directions of the hair as if you're actually brushing it. And usually we're just brushing in the lights. And of course, it's always back and forth, back and forth. More often than not, I'm correcting the drawing. The other great benefit of the pochade is it will alert you to any obstacles that lie ahead. It's a roadmap of the painting. It shows you both the direction to go and also what major obstacles you can expect to encounter. Now, I've taken this as far as I really need to go. Just a little bit of fixing of the mouth, just a little bit to get that smile in. Okay. Laughter and smiles are the most difficult expressions in portrait painting. If you can gain a strong competency in the expressions of joy and laughter, then all of the other expressions will come easily. Now, into the background. The figure-ground relationship is important. In fact, the most important thing to your painting is unity. That is harmony. Now, Rembrandt kind of did take a bit of a cheap, sleazy harmonizing method with his figure-ground relationship. The figure's the portrait, the ground's the background. Basically, what Rembrandt did is he gathered all the mixed hues on his palette and collected them into a pile, which we call the remainder. And to that, I added just a little bit of white, maybe a touch of yellow ochre. If you need a little bit of black to cut down the yellow, yeah, go ahead with it. And I'm just sort of trying to mix up a nice neutral gray. And this, comprising all of the flesh tones, readily harmonizes our figure-ground relationship. Okay, again, crosshatch. Going one direction, go over it with another direction. Think of it as like doing a cha-cha. 1, 2, 3, 4, cross. 1, 2, 3, 4, cross. 1, 2, 3, 4. And move across the dance floor or the canvas. Additionally, we have a lovely imprimatura. Don't kill it. Don't bury it under a heavy coat of background. Let it shimmer forth now and then. Heck, send your imprimatur out to the park to play with all of the other imprimaturas. Let it sparkle forth. Now also, as I lay in the ground, I'm going to correct the overall outside shape of the head. And I'm going to bring it just a little bit into the hair. This will help unify it. I don't want a hard edge between my hair and the background. I'm also going to bring some of this ground hue into the hair. Giving it the sense of the light picking up on it. This will also aid in harmonizing. And again, block in your background with energy. Because it's both unity and energy that attracts the painter. Drawing comes second. I know I'm not supposed to say this, and it kind of contradicts my saying 90% of painting problems are drawing problems. But to the viewer, the drawing, if done well, plays a minor part. It's the color and the composition that play the most important roles in this drama. Now, I hope you enjoyed this 30-minute video on the Pochade. And Be sure to take advantage of the full workshop. Here we go step by step, not just with the video, not just with the anatomy, but also with the ebook on the workshop, also the ebook of anatomy, that's my atlas of facial anatomy, and also the full-size images that you print out that will be your signposts through our journey, step by step. Now, speaking of composition, what I'm doing here with my brush is I'm just checking my rebattement. The rebattement is applying a square within the canvas. And it is this rebattement there's a very powerful compositional tool. And of course, there's always these few minor accents that need to put in. As an artist, I'm never satisfied. There's always something that needs to be corrected, always something that needs to be fussed with, even though it's just a pochade. And I'll give the same advice that I would give to you. Put your brush down and step away from the canvas.